you're all well and happy. Today we're going to get back into our very basic Bible study, looking at the book of Judges, and we're in chapter 19. This is a very difficult book to even cover. It's so distasteful, and it's hard to see why it's even in here, because it's just so heinous. But we're going to take a look at it and see what we can draw from this chapter. As we mentioned before, these last several chapters in Judges included to reflect the state of mind that existed among the children of Israel during this period of the Judges. There was no king, so you had these judges come up periodically to try to get the children of Israel back in shape, and they exercised some military and civil leadership. But there really wasn't any dominant power within the promised land at that time. The children of Israel had allowed a lot of the inhabitants to stay in the land, even though God had said to drive them out. And not only had they allowed them to stay, but they had intermarried and started to worship their gods and everything. So the whole theocracy of Israel was watered down, if rendered practically non-existent. So things were pretty dismal and grim during this period. So let's look at this example of how bad it actually got. Chapter 19, verse 1. Now it came about in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite staying in the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, who took a concubine for himself from Bethlehem in Judah. Levites were permitted to marry back then. A concubine was kind of a second-class wife, more of a legal mistress than an actual wife. Even though it was acceptable during the time, it was never sanctioned by God, and usually only wound up in difficulties. But let's see what happens in this case. But this concubine played the harlot against him, and she went away from him to her father's house in Bethlehem in Judah, and there was for a period of 4 months. Then her husband arose and went after her to speak tenderly to her in order to bring her back, taking with him his servant and a pair of donkeys. So she brought him to her father's house, and when the girl's father saw him, he was glad to meet him. Now the father's going to extend the normal Eastern courtesies here, which was very important back then. And his father-in-law, the girl's father, detained him, and he remained with him 3 days. So they ate and drank and lodged there. Now it came about on the 4th day that they got up early in the morning, and he prepared to go. And the girl's father said to his son-in-law, "Sustain yourself with a piece of bread, and afterward you may go." So both of them sat down and ate and drank together, and the girl's father said to the man, "Please be willing to spend the night, and let your heart be merry." Then the man arose to go, but the father-in-law urged him, so that he spent the night there again. And on the 5th day he arose to go early in the morning, and the girl's father said, "Please sustain yourself, and wait until afternoon." So both of them ate. When the man arose to go along with his concubine and servant, his father-in-law, the girl's father, said to him, "Behold, now the day is drawn to a close. Please spend the night. Lo, the day is coming to an end. Spend the night here, that your heart may be merry. Then tomorrow you may arise early for your journey, so that you may go home." But the man was not willing to spend the night, so he arose and departed, and came to a place opposite Jebus, that is Jerusalem. And there were with him a pair of saddled donkeys. His concubine also was with him. So he finally, the hospitality finally wore out, and he's on his way, and he passes by Jerusalem. When they were near Jebus, the day was almost gone, and the servant said to the master, "Please come and let us turn aside into the city of the Jebusites and spend the night in it." However, his master said to him, We will not turn aside into the city of foreigners who are not the son of the sons of Israel, but we will go on as far as Gibeah. So he didn't want to stay where these pagans were. He wanted to go on to where one of the tribes of Israel were. And he said to his servant, Come and let us approach one of these places, and we will spend the night in Gibeah or Ramah. So they passed along and went their way, and the sun set on them near Gibeah, which belongs to Benjamin. And they turned aside there in order to enter and lodge in Gibeah. When they entered, they sat down in the open square of the city, for no one took them into his house to spend the night. It was common back then, if you were traveling, there were no hotels or motels like we have today. You would go to the town square, and local hospitality would usually dictate that somebody would take you in, but nobody did. Then behold, an old man was coming out of the field from his work at evening. Now the man was from the hill country of Ephraim, and he was staying in Gibeah, but the men of the place were Benjamites. And he lifted up his eyes and saw the traveler in the open square of the city. And the old man said, Where are you going, and where do you come from? And he said to him, We are passing from Bethlehem in Judah to the remote part of the hill country of Ephraim, for I am from there, and I went to Bethlehem in Judah. But I am now going to my house, and no man will take me into his house. So he kind of gives him a lowdown on his background. Yet there is both straw and fodder for our donkeys, and also bread and wine for me, your maidservant, and the young man who is with your servants. There is no lack of anything. He's saying we have plenty. Normally they would take provisions for not only the humans in the group, but the cattle. And that's what he's done. He's got plenty to take care of him for the night. And the old man said, Peace to you. Only let me take care of all your needs. However, do not spend the night in the open square. This old man may have known something about the men of this city. So he took him into his house and gave the donkeys fodder, and they washed their feet and ate and drank. While they were making merry, behold, the men of the city, certain worthless fellows, surrounded the house, pounding the door. And they spoke to the owner of the house, the old man, saying, Bring out the man who came into your house, that we may have relations with him. So this sounds almost exactly like Sodom and Gomorrah. They wanted to have homosexual acts with a stranger that was passing through. Then the man, the owner of the house, went out to them and said to them, No, my fellows, please do not act so wickedly. Since this man has come into my house, do not commit this act of folly. So he's begging them not to do what they intend to. Now here's something that just shows how far down the moral scale things have degraded to. He actually is going to offer his own daughter to these men. Verse 24. Here is my virgin daughter and his concubine. Please let me bring them out to you, that you may ravish them and do whatever you wish, but do not commit such an act of folly against this man. So to this old man, it was more important for him to be hospitable than to protect these women, his own daughter. The same kind of feeling on the Levites' part as well, we're going to find out. But the men would not listen to him, so the man seized his concubine and brought her out to them. And they raped her and abused her all night until morning, then let her go at the approach of dawn. As the day began to dawn, the woman came and fell down at the doorway of the man's house where her master was until full daylight. When her master arose in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go on his way, then behold, his concubine was laying at the doorway of the house with her hands on the threshold. And he said to her, Get up and let us go. But there was no answer. Then he placed her on the donkey, and the man arose and went to his home. Unbelievable. It's hard for us to believe this if it hadn't been written down. Just demonic, evil actions on the part of these men, and the part of the concubine's master, and the part of the old man giving his daughter. Just every character in this story is absolutely depraved. And beyond that, this master is a coward, and that he won't even stand up for this concubine. And the old man won't stand up for his daughter. It's just unbelievable to us. And he's getting up to go on his way. He's not even looking for the concubine. He's just getting up to go his own way and sees her dead at the door. Unbelievable. When he entered his house, he took a knife and laid hold of his concubine and cut her in 12 pieces, limb by limb, and sent her out throughout the territory of Israel. So this degrades her even more, but he's doing it for a purpose, we suppose, that we can infer, and that is to get the children of Israel to come together to try to put an end to what's going on that led up to this ungodly mindset that's prevalent. Even though he's the one that's actually guilty of giving his concubine to these men, he wants to hold them 100% responsible. But maybe he has some pangs of guilt, and he's doing this to try to get some kind of accountability from the Benjamites that did this. And the last verse, and it came about that all who saw it said, nothing like this has ever happened or been seen from the day when the sons of Israel came up from the land of Egypt to this day. Consider it, take counsel, and speak up. This is rock bottom. It says nothing like this has happened since we came out of Egypt. So this must be rock bottom. Absolutely awful. And we're going to find out in the next chapter, even though we're going to stop here for now, that this is going to be the catalyst of a war with the Benjamites that's going to practically wipe that whole tribe out. And we'll read about that next time. It's hard to see any lessons from this, but it does give us the history of the mindset of the people. And it does show that when there is no king, nobody in authority, in other words, that total chaos can follow. And that's what we're seeing here. You know, in our country today, we see groups that want to defund the police and take away police authority. And we see that in those areas where this is most prevalent, that sheer chaos is by and large the result. And so maybe this is one lesson we can learn from this. But we're going to see that the children of Israel do unite in one voice. This cutting up with this woman's kind of a call to action, I guess. And they do try to do something, even though we're going to see that it has negative repercussions as well. But for now, let's just say we understand what was going on back then, how bad it was, which points us to actions God takes in the future. But for now, we'll end. I hope it's been meaningful in some way to you, and I hope you watch the next one. And in the meantime, God bless.